Fingertips above the water, you watch me drown. You could have saved me, but you let me down, yeah.
Chris, thanks.
You're welcome. Thank you.
My pleasure. Good to have you here, my friend.
Yeah, I'm enjoying. I like the digs you got going on here.
Well, thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a little nutty at times, but we're having fun.
Yeah, I like all the lights. I can't stop looking at them. So if I pause for a little while, it's because I'm mesmerized.
Either that, or you might go into an epileptic fit because this is an old building and the electricity's a little weak. So once in a while, we get some flicker in here.
I'm always worried in movie theaters that somehow that's going to happen to me. Just see, it would be my luck. It would be my luck.
All right, I got a couple of things I want to go over with you. First off, congratulations on Pittsburgh Beautiful. I've been paying attention to your work and your site for a long time. I've watched the growth. It's been incredible. I want to hear all about it, but what do you have currently going on there? Because it seems like you deliver content constantly. What's the latest that's going on with you?
It's I get asked that question, believe it or not, a lot. And what's going on with me is everything.
That's not a fair cop out.
I know. I'm not trying to cop out at all. Not at all. It's my mind is. There's nothing normal about the way my mind works, and I think a lot of people could say that. I mean, I don't think that's unusual, but I'm always looking for the next way that I can put content out there that people can appreciate. So to answer your question directly, is we launched an app. I should say I launched an app because, believe it or not, I'm it with Pittsburgh Beautiful.
That's it.
I have a writer that I pay that she does a lot, and she's been with me pretty much, well, for the last 3.5-4 years, and she's fantastic.
Got it.
But I don't want to say she just writes.
Understood.
But all she does is she'll write an article, and then I edit it and put it out there, and I give her some ideas, and we collaborate a little bit there. There's that word, collaboration, we were talking about before. But I launched an app, the Pittsburgh Beautiful app. As far as I can tell, it's the only Pittsburgh app. I mean, do the Penguins have an app? Yeah, I mean, it's through NHL, all that kind of stuff. So you can make that claim, but and the reason I launched an app was to bring all of this crap together. So you've got the Facebook page, you've got the Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, blah, blah. You got the blog, you have the podcast. So the Pittsburgh Beautiful app allows you to tap into all of that right from the app. So if you're a big fan, which I hope a lot of people are, and I hope even more are, I am, you don't have to say, well, what are they doing here? What are they doing there? You just go to the app and you can get on any of our social media, get on our website, listen to our podcast. And also, if you see a picture of something you love in the Pittsburgh area, and I have to say this all the time, Pittsburgh Beautiful is not about just the city. It's about the region that I fell in love with when I moved here. And you can share a picture right from your phone through the app, and it gets zapped right over to me, and then I broadcast it out over social media. So that's what's going on right now, or the newest, latest, and greatest. And it's free. As with anything, most things have to be free to get people involved.
Right.
I'm not accusing everybody of being cheap. But we do live in Pittsburgh, and I know. What's funny is anybody, and I don't like people. I get emails all the time. I really do. I get Facebook messages, Instagram, all that stuff, tons of it, all day long, and people thank me, for putting this stuff out there and all that, and for the first couple years that Pittsburgh Beautiful kind of started taking off and people were noticing it, nobody knew it was me because I don't, it's not, I'm just kind of the curator of this stuff. I didn't create Pittsburgh. I didn't create the people. I'm not that person. I just took what I noticed was happening and thought it would be fun to kind of show it off.
Right.
And everybody that follows Pittsburgh Beautiful, I don't consider them a follower or a fan of what I do.
Okay.
I consider them to be a lover of the region that they were either from and have moved away from, or continue to stay.
Fair enough.
That's what it is. So it's more like thank you to Pittsburgh and the region and the people. And because that's the number one thing that people tell me all the time when I interview them for a podcast or I'm just having a conversation with them. What's your favorite thing about Pittsburgh? 100%. I got the first different answer yesterday. And I'll reveal that answer later, but you can hear it on the podcast. But every single answer other than that one, which was a hilarious one, is the people.
Yeah.
And so to me, it's all about Pittsburgh and the people and what's beautiful. And they take ownership in it. So that's...
What is it about this town? I mean, you've done a lot of travel. You do a lot of travel.
Yeah.
You have enterprises in different cities and so forth. But this is your hometown since what, 93?
93.
Yeah. So what is it about Pittsburgh? Why is this town unique or really unique?
To me, I mean, my history with Pittsburgh goes back into the 70s. My father's mother, so my grandmother, was from Castle Shannon.
Okay.
Now, she left Pittsburgh in the 1930s. And she moved to the Washington, D.C. area. Mm-hmm. But most of her relatives stayed in Pittsburgh. And in the 1970s, I was born in 1970, so I'm dating myself, but I came to Pittsburgh a number of times, but every time I came to Pittsburgh, it was for a funeral. And
okay.
I've said this constantly. When I was young, when I was a kid, and when you're, anywhere up to about 13, 14 years old, before your eyes kind of start to open up, you get these ideas in your head about things. Some are fantasy, some are not, some are fiction, some are not. I honest to God, I thought Pittsburgh is where you were supposed to come to die. I'm not kidding. Aunt Catherine passed away. She was 92. She traveled the world. There's a story I wish I could tell.
Yeah.
But she's been gone since like 78. We're going to Pittsburgh. Your grandmother passed away. She died in like 1982. Yeah. We're going to Pittsburgh. It was constant funerals. So I'm like, I am never going to Pittsburgh because if I go there, that's where I'll die. Honestly,
I don't think Mayor Peduto's office is going to use that as a slogan anytime soon.
Yeah. No, why? What? Pittsburgh, come here to die. So, but you come full circle, and I mean, if you look at it in the context, you can understand it. It's something that I didn't really realize until I started kind of, jerking around with this whole Pittsburgh Beautiful idea and how cool it was.
Right.
It was one of those things where I was like, wait a minute, I thought when I was a kid, you have that realization. So I ended up going to college in Philadelphia, and I lived there for 5 years.
Drexel, right?
Drexel, yeah. And back then we called it OBU, which stands for Orange Brick University, because everything was orange. Now it's like this huge school. Mm-hmm. Nowadays I tell people I went to Drexel, they're like, oh, wow, you're really smart. Not in 1988. In 1988, Drexel was like, please, could you please come to school here? Only school I ever applied to. My mom put it down on the table and said, your cousins go to school here. It's probably a good school. You need to think about college. And I was like, gosh, shut up. And I filled it out. I got in and I went. And so I got to know Philly pretty well, and tremendous city. And yeah, right. See, that's the thing. If you're in Philly, people go Pittsburgh. If you're in Pittsburgh, people go Philly. Two totally different places.
No question.
And Philly is, it really is, it's a tremendous place. But it's 15 times the size of this city. Yeah. There is no comparison.
Well, most Pittsburghers couldn't even relate to that concept.
That's exactly right.
That is, right?
Yes. Yeah. And they can't. However, I moved here in 93, mm-hmm. and I came out here for two things. First was a girl, which a lot of us do. And second was a job, because if I was going to follow the girl, I had to have a job, or she wasn't going to pay any more attention to me, because I graduated college by the skin of my teeth. And so when I moved out here, what surprised me was I would be in the office and people would say, oh, you're the new guy. I was young, I was fresh. Where did you move here from? I said, well, I came here from Philly. First thing out of their mouth, why?
They said why?
Yeah. Why'd you like? Even though,
how about that?
Even though Pittsburghers in general don't have very good feelings about Philly,
that's hockey related, I think.
It's very hockey related, and a little bit, the old National League East days, maybe, a little bit of that. And they hate the Eagles too. But if you're a Steelers fan, you hate anybody who's not a Steeler. So, but why? And that was kind of scrambling my brain because I went to school with a couple guys that were from Pittsburgh, Mount Pleasant.
Right.
That's Pittsburgh,
right.
Even though it's Westmoreland County. And another kid was from Shaler, still friends to this day. So I had been kind of, I had already seen that Pittsburgh, that Yinzer. My buddy Steve, God bless him. I'm going to get him to listen to this. He'll love this. First time I ever heard anybody say Steelers the right way. We're in Philly. We're in some apartment with a whole bunch of guys, and the Steelers were on. And he's like, go Steelers. And the whole room looked at him like, go who? He's like, go Steelers. Them Steelers, they're gonna kick some ass today. And I was like, all right. I guess that's how you say it. I'd never heard that before. But here they are looking at me and saying, why? Uh-huh. And if you remember, and I know you do, 93, that was basically the bottom of the route that was the steel industry falling out through the 70s, through the 80s. You hit the early 90s.
Yeah, and that was, I think, just 93, 94, we started to finally come out of a recession, too.
Right.
The Bush era. First Bush 1 recession.
Right. And so Pittsburgh was really searching for its identity. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's why, when I look back on that, I think that's why they said why. It was less of... why did you come here? It was more of why did you leave Philly?
Got it.
There's that place is so big, there must be more opportunity there. You're closer to New York and blah, blah. So, I remember when I first moved to Philly, I called my mom, and I went to college, and I called her, how are things going, honey? I said, I don't know, Mom, these people, they're so mean. Because I was from a little town in central PA, York. And, it's not a little town, but it's small. And people are nice there. And I knew everybody.
It's called the suburbs.
Yeah, the suburbs. And, York is actually like a suburb of D.C. and Baltimore extended. You could say it's a suburb of Harrisburg, but we won't go there. So she said, honey, it'll be all right. That's just Philly. It's a big city mentality. It's not that they're mean. It's just that everything's rushed. They need to get to the next thing.
Tough.
Yeah, everything was like, hey, what do you want? At a restaurant, what do you want? Not how can I help you? And all that kind of stuff. And then I moved to Pittsburgh, and I got even more confused because there were people. The first place I lived was in Shadyside. I had moved in with that girl, and the first night that I stayed there. I don't think I've ever told this story. I've probably told some friends. But the first night I ever stayed there, it was a house in Shadyside. I called it Shadyside 2 because it was like over the busway. It wasn't in proper Shadyside. It was basically on the Bloomfield, Garfield side of Shadyside. Anyway.
He was pretending.
Yeah, I was pretending. I didn't know I was pretending at the time. I thought I was big stuff. So anyway, we're renting the bottom floor of a house. The owner, the landlord, lived on the top floor, and I kid you not, he was Jerry Garcia. It was Jerry Garcia lived on top in Pittsburgh. It's like he did, like, what did you do? You got a body double that's touring now because you are Jerry. He would play the guitar up there, and he was like, all right, man, whatever. So at one night, I'm falling asleep, and that big picture window is the bedroom. The front room is the bedroom.
Yeah.
And I see what I think is lightning. And then I notice that lightning it doesn't really happen in like a rhythm. Lightning happens once and then over here and I'm like, wait a minute, I think those are headlights. So I peer out the front window, excuse me, and I see the minivan across the street is parked. Now they had a little driveway on the side of their house. It's parked facing us, and the lights are going on and off. And then on and off. And I'm looking, I'm like, what's wrong with these people? Don't they know they're keeping me up? And I see a head down below and popping up, and it hit me. They're jacking that car. So my girlfriend, I don't know where, she might have been in the other room or something. I said, hey, you gotta call the cops. Somebody's stealing the car. First night in Pittsburgh, in Shadyside, somebody's stealing that car. And so she gets on, she calls 911. I grabbed the first thing I could grab, which was a golf club. And I don't even golf. I don't even know how the golf club got there. Honest to God, maybe she had it. I've never even asked her that question. I ended up running outside with a golf club. Okay.
All right.
By the time I got outside, 3 neighbors had grabbed the kid out of the car and were holding him down on the ground. There was another kid that was a lookout by the bushes. He had taken off, and then the cops arrived. Now, I had lived in Philly for 5+ years before that. And let me tell you, if your car's being stolen in Philly across the street, the neighbors are probably helping the guy. All right. No offense. No offense. And that's probably not true for real. But just the gist of it was like, it's just going to happen there.
Yeah.
I mean, you're taking your life into your own hands when you get involved in something like that, because you don't know what the motivation behind those kids stealing that car is. I mean, you know what they're trying to do, but you don't know. You don't know. And to me, it was really amazing that people on the street that lived there, they noticed the same thing. They came out and caught the guy.
Yeah, it's a big difference. It's
Huge
a big difference. Yeah, there's a really interesting sense of community, and then communities within the community.
Yeah.
In Pittsburgh, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, and it was the first time I met my neighbors. You know, and I think Jerry Garcia was asleep in some sort of drug haze up above us. I also don't ever remember paying that guy rent, but he passed away a long time ago. So, no. He was a great guy. He was a great guy. But that was my very first night. Now, I'd been to Pittsburgh many times, as I said, planning my funeral. And I had been out because my girlfriend, she graduated a year ahead of me. So I had traveled to Pittsburgh, the Turnpike and all that. But that was my first night as a Pittsburgh resident with a job and all that. And it amazed me because I had seen a lot of crime in Philly. My car had been broken into. I had friends that were robbed at gunpoint. And I don't think Philly's ever going to invite me back now that I've done this show and said these things. It's a changed place. But
the web came a couple years right after that. So here you come to Pittsburgh, and this thing called the interwebs, like 95, 96, just probably 98, 99 before it was mainstreamed or somewhat mainstreamed, right?
Yeah.
Did you catch that wave right away? Were you fascinated by it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. My father was a computer programmer, and he always had, when we were young, when the Pong game came out. Remember the Pong game?
Yeah.
And
I remember.
Yeah. It's all right, man. 50's the new 15. You haven't heard that lately?
I'm staring down the barrel of 60, buddy.
Yeah, whatever. Well, that just means 60's the new 25.
5 years from now,
I mean, don't worry about it. So, but yeah, my dad was a computer programmer. He was a math guy. And he always had he liked the latest thing. Now, he didn't go crazy like me. I took it to a whole other level. But so yeah, I got my first email address in 1994.
Wow.
And I still have that email address. I'm not going to say it because I get enough spam already. But it's an email address that you have to pay for the service, and I'm still paying for it. And because it's nostalgic to me now. I'm like,
is it Earthlink?
No, it's AOL. It's AOL.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was a thing.
Whenever anybody hits me with here's my email address and it's AOL, I'm like, we are in a special club. We really are. You should get a medal, man. Because I should own that company. All right, $25 a month right now. And I'm still paying for it, but I can't get rid of it because it's just so nostalgic to me, and that's what they're banking on. I'm telling you.
Oh, no, you ain't kidding.
Yeah. So yeah, I'll never forget. What a weird thing to never forget. I'll never forget buying my first. Remember Compaq, the computer company? I think they were bought by HP or something. But I'll never forget getting my first Compaq computer up at Sun Television and Appliances on McKnight Road.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I have a similar story.
Yeah, and setting that SOB up, and it had the speakers that were on the side, turning that on, and some lady walked across the screen saying, "Welcome to Compaq," and I'm like, "Oh my God, it's Star Trek! I'm in." And then what I started doing was, I hope I don't get arrested for this. Maybe there's a statute of well, I never tried to use it. I thought, and I got one of the first print scanners kind of thing. So what I did? I'm 24. I started scanning $50 bills. I'm just telling you, because I wanted to see, maybe I could do this.
I hear that's a federal offense. I'm not really sure.
It is. Well, and I will say for the record that the printing quality was very poor.
I would imagine.
And I knew immediately that it would never pass for a $50 bill. Therefore, I ended my dream of being a counterfeiter immediately. No, I was actually just curious. I wonder, because we didn't. These things are brand new for us.
Oh, yeah.
It's I wonder if a $50 bill would look exactly. So I started scanning these things. But
it's a whole new world opened up at that time. Huh?
Oh,
it's
yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. Well, now, I mean, who carries cash anymore?
Yeah.
I mean, I do once in a while.
Yeah.
Usually the time I'm not carrying cash is when my wife says, honey, you got to pay the valet. And then I'm always like, okay, do you have any money on you? And then the valet's looking at me like, you got to get money from your wife.
Sure she loves that.
Yeah. Oh, she hates that. Trust me. She hates that. Or it's always as we're pulling up to a restaurant or a show or something, they have valet. Just as we're pulling up, I'm grimacing like, here it comes. Do you have money for the valet? No. Every time. Well, what happened to that $300 I saw in your wallet 3 days ago? No, I was in McKee's Rocks. No, I'm just kidding. No.
Explains everything.
No. I don't know what happened to it. I think you took it out of my wallet. So,
did you want to work in that space early? I say space. I'm starting to sound like a youngster now.
Yeah.
Did you want to work in the web environment right away? Were you that fascinated by it, or what was your draw to it from a business standpoint?
Back then, I had no concept of what business was. Back then, I went to school for graphic design and photography. That did not pan out for me because I ended up majoring in I majored in marijuana and alcohol is pretty much what I majored in. And it's even easier when you're an art major. Okay.
Yeah, I think it goes hand in hand, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah. And so my father, God bless him, after my freshman year of college, he said, look, this art thing isn't going to work out for you. And I was like, what do you mean, Dad? And, of course it'll work out for me. He said, no, not while I'm paying for your education. It's not going to work out for you. Okay, so these are your choices. Graduate with a 3.0 or get a 3.0 every semester. The next semester, I don't care if it's a 2.99, the cord is cut. I was blessed. I came out of college with a little bit of student debt, not a lot.
Right.
My father was... he was a strange guy. He was a computer nerd, but he was very kind. So thankfully I listened to him. And he said, you got to get out of this degree. You got to get over a 3.0 every term and you're still good with me. But think of me as your employer. I'm paying for most of your school. Therefore, I employ you to get good grades. That was my first business lesson.
You're not going to school, you're working.
That's right. And I passed.
Yeah.
So I ended up in business. And when I came out here, it was the height of the refi boom in 93. And I had a couple jobs in Philly that were mortgage related. So I actually started in the mortgage business in 1989. And to this day, I still do it, And so I was fascinated by the internet. I did start like little websites and little projects because that creative side of me, here was a new creative outlet. But what I mostly did was play video games with it. Honestly, I mean, for me, it was kind of like I can create things or I can play things that have already been created for me. And so I didn't really jump off into this new medium that is social media. And now, because back then it was like turn it into a business. How do you do that?
Right.
Until probably about 10 years ago.
When you first saw MySpace, like early 2000s or mid 2004, 3?
I don't know, but yeah,
5?
MySpace, yeah.
What would you think of it? Or did you think anything of it?
Well, at first when I heard all the hype, I thought, oh wow, this is interesting. But it became very clear to me because I was in my early 30s then. It became very clear to me that it was the Wild West. And honest to God, there was probably more pornographic stuff on there than anything else. I mean, it struck me as this isn't going to last because you're just allowed to there's too much on here that's not
kid friendly.
Well, and not just kid friendly, but more. It was. I'm lost for words. I didn't think it would last. And then I guess Yahoo bought it or somebody bought it, and it's apparently it's still around.
I think it's still around. Although apparently they lost all their client information or something.
I don't
know.
They
lost everything.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. And does anybody care?
Justin Timberlake bought it like 6-7 years ago and took a bath on that. I guess they wanted to turn it into a music site. I think that's what the vision was like 8 or 9 years ago to do that. But
that then became. Oh, hey, look! I just want everybody to know that I'm getting a call from Philadelphia. if you can see that, I'm going to have to take this.
And we're not live streaming.
I'm gonna have to take this and apologize. That's probably one of those robocalls. How funny is that, though? Philly sucks, and then I get a call.
We're not live. That's very strange.
That is strange. Big brother. So yeah, I don't really think I thought anything, honestly. I just remember thinking and going, oh wow, there's like a lot of, and I don't want to offend anybody, but it's like there's a lot of girls or somebody behind this putting scantily clad women on, and then it's almost like a dating site.
Related to, I thought it was I first thought it was a porn. It was a mainstream site that was taken over by porn. Then I realized. Do you remember when MySpace permitted complete customization, like wallpapers, and so people that didn't understand that the size of a photograph that's tiled kind of matters.
Yes,
with slow connections, so people's wallpapers weren't. Then there was all these moving GIFs, and everything was just like. It was terrible. It was just visually terrible.
Yes.
And then Facebook comes and they figure that, we can't let customization happen. We need to be...
Yeah, everything has to be uniform.
Yeah. And will people adapt to that after doing everything they want on MySpace? And boy, there wasn't any doubt about that.
Yeah, there was a guy in real estate a few years back that I worked with, and this is kind of the same thing. If you look at internet sites, social media sites, whatever, that's real estate, in its own form or fashion. It has value.
No question.
So he used to say all the time, the owners of the company that I worked for, which will forever remain nameless, they love to get in on a lot of the condo deals in the late 90s that were in and around the city. They wanted to be first in all these condo deals. And he used to tell them all the time in meetings, like, sometimes it's not good to be first. Sometimes if you're second, you're coming to the rescue. Because you watch the first guy flounder, you figure out, what he did wrong.
Right.
And I think that's the MySpace Facebook thing. I mean, all credit to Mark Zuckerberg, if you want to believe he's really the guy that created it. Yeah. But all credit to him. But MySpace was kind of that, okay, we got huge, stumbled and fell. At the time, this Facebook thing was coming in between just students at Harvard and all that, and you can learn from those mistakes. And you look where it is today. And, the big question around Facebook that I'm learning is that Facebook is a social place, and of course they are driving businesses there because sooner or later they had to make money because they weren't making any, and they were huge. So how do you monetize it? Well, they had a platform, they had enough eyeballs on it, corporate sponsors, all that kind of stuff. But Facebook isn't a search engine. So if you're a business, and maybe segue to this at a later time, but I just kind of stumbled on it, which is kind of how my mind works.
That's what we do here.
Right. But if you're a business and you're trying to get on Facebook to make sales, and there's going to be thousands of people that say, oh no, I've sold millions on Facebook. And there are. I mean, there are. But if you're a business and you want to get on Facebook thinking that that's going to drive traffic or sales the way Google or a search engine does, you got to rethink that.
Absolutely.
Because people go to Google with intent. When I type something into Google, I'm looking for something. Jennifer Aniston in a bikini.
I like this man's honesty.
Hey, look, in doing Pittsburgh Beautiful, I have to be wholesome and honest and nice.
You do.
I don't feel like I have to be like that in here.
No, we don't do that in here.
Yeah, I am a real person. I don't walk around with flowers. No,
the gloss is off today.
Yeah. No, but I mean, seriously. God, I hope my wife doesn't listen to this podcast. I love you, Lauren. Everybody knows. She is the most incredible human being on the planet, and she really is. But yeah, Google is intent. Facebook is not a search engine. Facebook is kind of an accident. Oh, right. And now, of course, you've got groups and all that other stuff.
Yeah,
I mean, you can,
it is kind of an accident.
Yeah, and you can't. You have to be aware of the fact that Facebook and social media is for awareness. And it's, I spend probably an inappropriate amount of time on social media, not on my own social media. If you look at my Facebook page, I might put something up there once every couple days, and then sometimes a month goes by. But because I'm so involved with Pittsburgh Beautiful and the other things I'm doing, I'm always on it.
Right.
But most people, it's at work at a break, sitting at a stoplight, sometimes flying down the turnpike at 85 miles an hour. I've never done
car on auto drive.
Yeah, I really have never done that, but I've seen it happening.
Yeah, I have to.
But that's kind of and they say the algorithms serve up what you like to look at and stuff like that, and they do, but it's definitely not where you're not gonna build your brick and mortar business on Facebook. You need to take a holistic approach, and you need to kind of blast yourself out everywhere. It's all about eyeballs.
It's a piece of the puzzle. Would you not agree? It can be of your total marketing puzzle.
Yeah.
But I've had significant success in not all the time, but in some targeted marketing campaigns. They're both on real estate and for promoting the show. We've done okay.
Yes.
Really can't tell if for this amount of money and that kind of view, is that okay or not? It seems to be.
Right.
But what are we comparing it against?
Right.
So how will we know?
Yeah. You basically, the only way to compare it is to just go dollar per dollar. I spent $1,000 on Facebook marketing. I got one lead out of it as a real estate agent. I made X amount of dollars.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. But it's a very crowded space. Yeah. As your wife knows, as I know, it's a very crowded space.
Yeah, it's too crowded. I mean, it really is too crowded. I mean, there are certain professions that really are word of mouth and much more hands-on. I'm enjoying, now we're segueing into real estate, of course, but now I'm enjoying watching Zillow try to become a real estate company and a mortgage company and all that. And look, they got enough money to waste.
Oh, they've been trying it. They've been trying to for it. Look, they've been trying to put the realtor and try to put the mortgage rep out of business forever. And a little segue, if you indulge me for a minute.
Yeah, sure.
It's not going to happen.
It's your show.
They've tried.
Yeah.
They've tried and tried and tried, and we're all still here. And a lot of us doing really well in a career that we love.
Yeah.
And they keep trying to squish us and squish us. That's okay. Yeah. I don't find that intimidating to me. That's capitalism, right?
Yeah.
For me, that's just the way business works.
True.
But you gotta have to laugh sometimes because the same attempt keeps being made.
Yeah. It's over and over and over. Well, and if you think about it, real estate is a very, very personal transaction. It just is. Even if it's on the corporate level, on buying a large structure,
it's a relationship.
There's still a
real human relationship.
That's right. And good luck to them. I wish them well. Well, I don't think they're going to succeed.
Let me ask you this. So,
you heard that first right here.
Yeah.
Zillow's not going to succeed.
Wow. But their leads are fine.
No. Yeah, right. Oops. I forgot about that part. Yeah. No. Yeah.
Hey, we hunt for business any way we can.
Yeah.
Talk about Pittsburgh Beautiful. What was the idea? Was it an epiphany? Was it a gradual move toward it? Was it something else at one time?
No, it wasn't something else at one time. It was actually an epiphany.
Okay.
When I moved here, as I explained earlier,
Jerry Garcia with you when you did that?
Was Jerry with me? No, I think he was dead then. I think he died. It's killing me. I can't remember this guy's name. If I could just show you a picture, you'd be like, "Yeah, you're right. The real Jerry Garcia wasn't the real Jerry Garcia. He was the landlord in Shadyside."
Got it. Somebody who listens to this will know that guy.
Yeah, they will. His name was Dave. His name was Dave. That's all I remember.
Like Jerry Garcia, early '90s landlord, second floor,
Graham Street, South Graham Street on Shadyside.
Somebody.
Yeah,
some of our friends Dave out there
loved him. He was a nicest guy. Nicest guy. So, when I moved here, of course, we already talked about that. It was kind of like Pittsburgh's trying to figure itself out.
Yeah.
So what I noticed as time went by is there were a lot of promises being made. We're going to build this. We're going to redevelop that. We're going to do this. And no fault of the politicians. I get it. I don't take sides in politics. No, I just don't. I mean,
hate them all.
We can. Yeah, right. I don't take. I'm only on one side.
Don't get me started. I hate them all.
Yeah, right. So, but for me, it's kind of like you can hate, you can love, whatever. I'm not pulling the strings. It's not me. So I'm a witness.
Sure,
I'm a witness
to
this. Right. So they're making all these promises about stuff, and I know in the end, the greater good is what we got to turn this place around somehow, and I want to take credit for it, kind of stuff. And I was watching these things kind of flounder along. We're going to revitalize the north side, and that still is kind of in question today, even though you can say there's a lot going on down there. For a long time, there was a lot going on down there, and
not all of it was good.
Not all of it was good, and so they, what really killed me, Eric, and I don't know, I don't know how this stuff works. I'm a total outsider. So as a witness, as like a Monday morning quarterback, they announced they're going to build the new stadiums, and they're going to take that Three River Stadium down, which was almost as bad as the Vet in Philly. A lot of history there, but still bad stadium. And they use, and for me at the time, putting up a new football stadium was a no-brainer. Okay, you only got 8 real games here, and then maybe playoffs. You got a legion of fans that are going to follow you. Of course, when you put up a new football stadium, people are going to come. Okay, but it's not going to drive traffic to the north side outside of football season, unless you get the Rolling Stones in there or U2, and that's a one-off every couple years, whatever.
Right. Motocross.
Right. Yeah, for all you motocross fans. What kills me though is WWE. I don't want to insult anybody. I don't know why people watch that. I just don't know.
Yeah, I'm aware of it. I don't know.
I like Hulk Hogan, and he's somehow still participating.
Everyone's like superstar with Billy Graham. I'm going way back now.
Yeah, right. Now the XFL, Vince McMahon, the XFL.
That's like wrestling football.
We're going to talk about that tonight on our other podcast.
Nice.
But
that's a thing though. That might actually
the XFL.
work.
I find it entertaining. But anyway, back to my story. They said we're going to put up this new ballpark for the Pirates, and you remember all that BS. And they got to put the 1% tax. We'll repeal it. We knew that was never going to happen. All that kind of stuff.
The people rejected it, and essentially, in spite of what the people wanted, the politicians found a way to fucking do it anyway.
There you go. Okay. So, but here's the one, and you're right. And here was the one hook that got me at this time. This was probably my personal low point in Pittsburgh, just from the standpoint of, what's this area going to do? Do I want to stay here? Because I tried to leave. I tried to get out of here. I did.
Okay.
So they said, I'll never forget, I saw a commercial about this on TV. I heard one of the politicians talking about it. They said, listen, this new stadium for the Pirates is going to do for the North Shore what Camden Yards did for Baltimore.
That was the plan.
Yeah. Well, can I tell you, I grew up in York. I grew up actually an Orioles fan, which, believe it or not, right now is more shameful than being a Pirates fan. So you guys ought to consider yourselves lucky that you have a mediocre at best team. Because I have the worst team in Major League Baseball.
They're neck and neck.
Well, when they lose, well, okay, maybe. So anyway, I immediately thought to myself, look, I grew up down there. I went to Memorial Stadium in Baltimore. Yeah. I watched Cal Ripken play, Eddie Murray play. Yeah. I watched Rod Carew get his 1999th hit there. Right, old school baseball. Mm-hmm. They opened up Camden Yards. Fantastic ballpark. Beautiful. To this day.
Beautiful.
What the guys here in Pittsburgh either didn't know because they just didn't want to pay attention, or just didn't want to admit, was that Baltimore redeveloped Inner Harbor 20 years prior to Camden Yards going in. And then the Orioles organization thought, what a great place to put a ballpark, because we get 5 million visitors a year in the summertime.
Oh, it was strategically built there.
You got it.
Yeah, no question.
So as soon as those guys said, it's going to do for Pittsburgh what Camden Yards did for Baltimore, I thought, you guys are off your rocker. That's never going to happen. Mm-hmm. You got it backwards. And they did. And now it's 20 years later. And now there's some development starting to go on.
Mm-hmm. It took a long time.
Right. You should have concentrated all of that money, in my opinion, on the development of the area. Mm-hmm. And then you could have popped a ballpark in.
But there was no place for the Pirates to play, right?
That's true. Yeah,
unless they kept Through River Stadium.
Yeah, I mean, that's all. I mean, all that stuff
conjecture,
is, right. I'm just
and look, any baseball fan will tell you that place it's beautiful. I've gone a lot of baseball fields.
Love it there.
I get it. But again, I don't think it was done the right way. I think it was pushed through in spite of what the actual public wanted. They found a way to tax us anyways and get that was extra 1% or whatever it was. They found a way to get it done. And a baseball purist, and I love baseball.
Yeah,
don't like the Pirates, but I love baseball. But a baseball purist will tell you, well, it's the most beautiful park, and it is. It has a beautiful sky, scape there of Pittsburgh. Yeah. But if you really look at nuts and bolts, you have a entity like that has an inhabitant that has no intention of really putting more people in town or in that facility.
Right.
They don't care about winning.
Yeah, they rest on the ballpark. They rest on what you just talked about.
20 solid years now.
Yeah.
And it's a real shame. And I think if you would have asked the leaders at the time back in 99, if they could look into the crystal ball and see that they'd have a losing season 18 out of 20 or 17 out of 20, there would have to be a different view toward it. it's been really sad.
Yeah. Yeah, it really has.
My rocking, my whole
that's all right. I get it. I get it. And it is. And it is one of the most beautiful ballparks. I mean, I've been to a number of parks in my life. I would say that the number one park for me, because I'm a closet Orioles fan. I'm a Pittsburgh fan. I'm a Steelers fan. I'm a Penguins fan. I'm a Pirates fan. But in a younger life, I'm an Orioles fan. Camden Yards kicked off this whole wave.
There's no question.
You go down there today, it is still a magnificent place because of the history and the lore. It was the first retro ballpark, and
purely retro. The second on my list is Wrigley Field. If you haven't seen a game in Wrigley Field, you haven't seen a baseball game. And I was going there when the Cubs sucked, and it was packed. I was having a ball, well, the population's big enough that those fans can go to that game and they can suck and they'll still have a great time.
Yeah, that part is true. That part is true. So the atmosphere and the fans and the ballpark, though, they're still putting up the scores manually. I mean, my wife and I go there to see Pearl Jam when they come to Chicago. We love going out to see Pearl Jam at Wrigley Field. And it just never ceases to amaze me how true to the traditions that they kind of keep that field. Yeah. And then third is PNC Park, because it is beautiful. I mean, it's just every time I go to watch a baseball game there, I'm not going to watch the Pirates. Yeah. I'm going to either watch the other team that's coming in.
Isn't that a shame, though?
Yeah, it is a shame.
That is such a shame.
It is a shame. Or I'm going because I'm taking my kids down or some friends down. I just love to sit there and watch. Yeah,
it's
take
beautiful,
pictures.
Absolutely beautiful, especially on a nice night. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. And the fireworks are great.
Bobbleheads.
I can't tell you how many of those I've thrown out. I probably threw out the most valuable one ever, and I don't know what it is yet. So it's probably who's the guy that they just banned for 82 games?
I don't even know. Yeah, I don't even know his name.
Yeah. I don't even know why it was a press story.
I don't even know how we went down this dark baseball road.
I have no idea.
But to your point, though, you were talking about development in the town.
Yeah. So with Pittsburgh Beautiful, what happened is I ended up probably in the early 2000s. I started noticing some of this stuff was starting to happen. There was something brewing. There's something going on. And by 2007. You're in the real estate business. I had been in the mortgage and banking business and real estate for a while. So we really remember the crash. Yeah. Okay. It happened right in front of my eyes. Constantly. And the most interesting thing about the crash for me was that the rest of the country went into this incredible, you call it whatever you want, Great Recession, Depression, and everything that was going on. At that point in time, it dawned on me that this is it for Pittsburgh. This is the time, because we never participated in this ridiculous boom. Now, did we participate in the whole, these weird mortgages? People were, they were everywhere. Right. And we did have our fair share of foreclosures and unemployment and all that kind of stuff. But as a region, it really kind of, the rest of the country's falling. This region stayed exactly where it was.
We did.
And
That's forgotten.
Now here we are. Yeah.
That's true.
In the next couple of years, I started to notice some things changing, and I started taking pictures basically on my phone.
Okay.
And I have no idea or recollection of how I came up with the name Pittsburgh Beautiful. I really don't. I wish I did. I wish I could. I wish there was some great story to tell about that. But Facebook had just come out with allowing you to start like fan pages or business pages.
Right.
And I had my own personal page that I had at that time had many political arguments on. Remember those days of Facebook where that's all you did is get on
yesterday? That's what people do.
Tell people how stupid they are and then realize how stupid you are. So
I did that early on.
Yeah,
for a little while.
Yeah, I don't think I talk to any of those people anymore either.
It's a shame.
No idea why. Yeah. But
very caustic then.
So it was. Yeah,
like it was today, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, we're just ignoring it now.
You have to.
So next thing I knew, I came up with the name Pittsburgh Beautiful. I think there was just one day where I was like looking at some of the old architecture downtown. I was like, that's beautiful. That's like Pittsburgh Beautiful. Like that's what Pittsburgh is. And it just kind of stuck with me. It was something like that. So I started putting up a few pictures here and there around town of some cool stuff, and they weren't good photographs. They were from my phone.
Right.
I'll never admit that I was driving down the Parkway taking pictures of anything because I never did that.
No, of course not.
But a couple years go by, and one day, I took all my wife and I, between the two of us, we have 7 kids. We don't have any together, but she had 3, I have 4. I took a whole bunch of them to the movies one day, and we, I did one of those creepy dad things where it was like, hey guys, we're at a movie, hold up your thumb at the movie with dads. Take a picture, I'll never look at that again. They oh, Dad, okay. So I got home that night and I was looking through my pictures and I saw that picture of the kids and I was thinking, oh, what a great day that was. I only spent $800 at the movies. And and I noticed that they were all wearing a shirt that said Pittsburgh on it.
Okay.
Like one of my boys' Steelers shirt, another one of my boys' Penguin shirt. Yeah. Another kid had a Pirate. Literally all the sports teams. Yeah, right. Yeah, they put them in the back. So they. So I thought, oh, that's pretty cool. Look at that. All those kids. Like nobody's going to know they're my kids or anything. But how cool is that? Thumbs up, popcorn. So I threw it up on Pittsburgh Beautiful, and I put something up there. It was like May 16th. I don't remember. I could find it, but. It said, this is what's Pittsburgh Beautiful, just kind of referencing kids and the shirts and show me what you think is Pittsburgh Beautiful. And to my surprise, within the next 24 hours, I had like 150 pictures posted on the timeline from people saying, I love this, I love this, I love this, I love this.
Got it.
That was the epiphany. That was
something's going on here.
I'm onto something.
Yeah.
This is fun.
Yeah.
And then it just kind of just grew from there. And it's essentially pretty much taken over my life, like in a good way.
It's massive. I mean, it's massive. The amount of people that are following or participating is just mind-numbing to me.
Yeah, and I love that. I mean, I love that. I think it's great. From a region that I thought literally as a child you came to die, and no joke intended there. I really did. And to a region that, for all intents and purposes, when I moved here, it was dying. I mean, Pittsburgh's never dead, but seeing it rebound and start to grow, and then taking the lessons that I learned from all the friends and family members that I know and met here, and my buddies from college that I met in Philly that were from here and moved back here and are still here. And my buddy Steve lives in Greenfield, raised his kids here, who are coincidentally both going to Philly for college.
Got it.
It's crazy how that stuff works out. But it's just to take all those lessons, and then I thought to myself, I need a website because Facebook is only Facebook, and it's fun. I encourage people, share your pictures, share what you think is beautiful. That's what drives it. It's all about Pittsburgh and the people. It's not about me. I could give two shits about that. It's about helping this region continue to show what I think is the truth. And you asked me about Pittsburgh and what I think about Pittsburgh. I really believe in my heart and in my soul that Pittsburgh is the cradle of this country. It is. I mean, you could talk all you want about New York City. You could talk all you want about any other town. Everybody always goes to New York, but Pittsburgh is very instrumental in how this country was formed. If you go back and look at the early days, and I'm talking 1700s, and the frontiersmen and the relationships with the Native Americans and the tribes in the French and Indian War, and how instrumental George Washington was. George Washington basically started the French and Indian War. Did you know that?
Did not know that.
Watch the documentary on the History Channel called Washington. Greatest documentary on him I've ever seen. Yeah, it's out now.
Yeah.
But he literally, and I did not know this, but he started the French and Indian War.
Wow, how about that?
Right, and then we come full circle through his life, and he comes back to Pittsburgh as the first sitting president, commanding an army. Right. Now, without any reference to who our commander-in-chief is today, it wouldn't matter who it was. Could you see any president leading an army into battle?
No.
Okay, so Washington, for the Whiskey Rebellion, leads the army himself and negotiates a peace, and then goes back to Washington. And if you think about it, the capital was in Philly. Right. Okay, they hadn't built D.C. yet.
Yeah.
And Pittsburgh was the frontier town. And George Washington spent his life between Mount Vernon, which is only like 13 miles south of D.C.,
right,
and Philadelphia and Western Pennsylvania. So nowhere in there other than he lost New York to the British early on, and they thought we were going to lose the war, is New York City. And this, look, I love Manhattan. And as a matter of fact, I would live there. You know, I just need about $18 billion and I'll be able to afford, you know, pizza. So Pittsburgh really is, to me, it's the cradle of America. It's where this country was truly, I mean, you could say the country was born in Philadelphia, the Declaration of Independence. You can say the first capital is York, Pennsylvania, where I'm from, because that's where they wrote the Articles of Confederation. But the grit of this nation, where we made our bones, was in Western Pennsylvania. And I think that through all of that, that's why you've got these core values and these deep roots here that I tapped. I get chills talking about it right now because I am not from Pittsburgh. I am a Pittsburgher, but I am not from Pittsburgh. And I wanted to tell those stories, and I noticed that there were no real websites that were easily accessible. I mean, if you go to the University of Pitt's archives and all that stuff, they got everything in there, but you try to find it, you know, it's hard. So I started writing the history of every single neighborhood in the city, one at a time. And then I decided, well, it's not just the city. So now I'm writing the histories of Allegheny County, all the townships. And we got to do something about that, by the way. There's too many damn townships to write about.
You aren't kidding.
But I just wanted there to be a place where people could come and not only celebrate what they love about the region where they grew up and the pictures and everything. I wanted them to be able to come and get a little bit of information about where they are actually from.
Got it.
You know, like there's a neighborhood called California Kirkbride on the north side. Who'd have known that? Like 19 houses are there. You know, it's mostly train tracks. You know, everything I ever saw was come to Shady Side and shop on Walnut Street. We sell Apple computers. You know, and not
You're
that
not alone.
Right. Or well, remember the days in Lawrenceville when I first moved here? Lawrenceville during the day was a scary place.
Let me tell you something. In early '90s, I worked not too far from there, and we would go through there like we would close our eyes and go through it and get to Bloomfield.
There you go. And even Bloomfield was a little sketchy.
But I could at least get some. I could eat there. I go to one of those little Italian restaurants there, and then close my eyes and drive past Lawrenceville again.
That's right. I actually did some mortgages down in Lawrenceville. This is going to blow people away. The largest mortgage I ever did in Lawrenceville up until a few years back was $15,000. And it was a house that if I drive by it today, it's probably in the $400,000 range.
It's amazing what's happened there, and it's good.
It is good.
That's good.
It is good. Like I said, everything about Pittsburgh is beautiful. Every region, and I say this a lot in the country, you know, you have your naysayers, you have your negativity. And if you wanted to sit down with me and ask me what I thought was wrong with what's going on around here, hey, listen, I could fill up a whole day of that stuff with you.
Can.
Absolutely.
Right.
But you know what? That stuff is going to happen anyway.
And it does.
It is.
Everywhere.
And the longer you let it continue to happen and the longer you give it energy and talk about it, the worse it's going to get. So are there discrepancies? Yes. Is there discrimination? Absolutely. It happens all the time. Is there inequity in the distribution of income? Right. Is gentrification, does that disenfranchise people? I'm trying to pull all these words out.
Pretty good here.
Yeah, I am. I'm surprised in myself,
I'm
actually.
completely lost, but
me too.
He's carrying it
I'm
here.
completely lost. I'm really just trying to take over the show. That's what I'm trying to do.
That.
Yeah.
That's good.
So, but for me, it's kind of like, look, I get enough of that. And I just really think it's time for people to step back and be grateful, no matter what your position is. If you're a billionaire, you need to be grateful.
That's happening more, though. Maybe I'm an optimist. Social media would lead you to believe it's pretty caustic right now, but I don't think that's reflective of the human condition.
Right.
I think generally when I find people in this town very kind when we're out. I find people holding doors open. I find kindness all around. And when people talk about Pittsburgh, to me, Chris, I think about us being extremely gritty and really kind. You have a lot of gritty towns, and you have a lot of suave towns that aren't gritty, and they're upper crust or
metropolitan,
sexy, whatever.
Yeah,
we're gritty, but we're kind.
Yes.
It's a weird combination.
It is a weird combination, and that's what makes Pittsburgh unique. And you're exactly right. I think that's what I was talking about when I talked about, you know, people here, they drive those roots deep, and this country, this city, and this region, pioneered an awful lot of incredible things that turned America into what it is.
Right.
And it also suffered through a lot of that as well, and every single time came out on top. And if you think about it, the most recent issue 10 years ago, the Great Recession,
right.
Hey, we're on top.
Right on.
You know?
Yep.
And I'm pretty sure that when we have another Great Recession, which will happen, it happens.
Cyclical.
It happens. I got a feeling we'll probably be on top after that one as well. And the greatest thing about this journey for me has been discovering how many people out there are like me. And I don't mean weird and, strange and maybe a little handicapped, for lack of a better way of putting it. No, what I mean is people who identify themselves as Pittsburghers who are not originally from Pittsburgh.
Right.
And I use this example a lot. The first podcast that I did was... It was a request. I put out a request. I'm starting a podcast. I want guests because I thought this is a natural way to go.
Okay.
I'm telling the story of Pittsburgh, one Pittsburgher at a time.
As part of Pittsburgh Beautiful.
As part of Pittsburgh Beautiful, right. And I got a guy that hit me up on Facebook Messenger or email or something. He said, "Hey, I've got a pretty interesting story, and I'd actually like to be a guest on your podcast because I'm a travel agent in New York City. And I send more people to Pittsburgh for vacation
How about that?
than anything else." And I thought, okay, that's interesting. Let's do that. So it turns out he is originally from New York. He spent 6 years of his life in Pittsburgh from the age of 6 to 12. He lived in Butler, which, as we all know around here, that's not Pittsburgh. But if somebody from Butler is in New York City, they're going to tell you they're from Pittsburgh.
Without a doubt.
Right. So he moved out of there, and then he came back here and went to college for music at CMU, and then left again, went back to New York. He's now in his 60s, travel agent. People would come to him and say, I want to go someplace a little different. I don't want it to be too far away. I want it to be affordable. I want it to be cool, just like a 4-day getaway.
Got it.
And there's some stuff going on in Pittsburgh, so he started sending people there. And they book every year now.
Really?
Yeah. Now, that was kind of amazing.
Sure.
Here was the most amazing thing to me. He says, to this day, I'm 60 whatever years old, and I'm sorry if I got that wrong. He's got to be in his 60s. So anyway, he says, to this day, when people ask me where I'm from, I tell them I'm from Pittsburgh. Now, he was born in New York. He lived here for 6 years. He said, I'm a Steelers fan. I'm a Pirates fan. The Pirates were good then. The Steelers weren't that great. The Penguins were horrible. But I'm a Pittsburgher.
How about that?
Yeah, and I said, what do you remember? What's your best memory of Pittsburgh? He said, well, whenever we would go down into the city from Butler to see a show or see a game or whatever, he said you could smell Pittsburgh before you could see it. Because of the steel mills were still
Got
there.
it.
The sulfur and all that. He said, I remember that.
When I was a kid, yeah.
Yeah, he said, but I even though I am a New Yorker, I am a Pittsburgher. And to me, that meant the world. I was like, that's exactly what I'm getting at here. If you come to this city and spend any time here at all, and meet the people, and that grittiness is a very attractive quality. It's like hardworking.
No question.
And you've got this perfect mix downtown now of technology, new structures. Looking at cranes over the city is like, it's a beautiful sight.
I agree.
Yeah, and you got that perfect mix, and then the people that are like, you know what? I'm not going to try to tell you how to get there. Just follow me in my car. I'll drive. I know it's out of my way, but I'll never get you there trying to get you through these streets. Follow me.
Try that in New York.
Yeah, try that in New York. But they start growing their own roots here, and to me, that's I've been a lot of places, and there's a lot of special people everywhere, which is why I've taken this concept and I've launched it in other cities, because I think there's something we can tap into nationally for that. But this is the place where it started, and this is the place that has the strongest connection. And knowing the friends that I have that are true Pittsburghers, born, raised here, raise their kids here, I've never met a better bunch of people. So for me, that's what drives it. That's why I can't stop. I started the Pittsburgh Beautiful podcast to tell a story of Pittsburghers, one Pittsburgher at a time, and Yeah, I try to get some people that may have some notoriety on there, but
sure,
the stories I'm most interested in are the people that are here,
right?
And they're kind of under the radar, but they're those gritty people that are they're starting a business. You know, I'm getting a lot of the younger generation on, which I really appreciate, and they're starting businesses and they're staying here. I had a woman on last season on the podcast who was from Jamaica, lived in New York, came to Pitt to go to school, decided to stay here.
How about that?
And start a fashion business and a design business and all this other stuff. I mean, right. You came from Jamaica, lived in New York, came to Pitt, and decided to stay here and start a fashion business? You know, that says a lot about Pittsburgh.
It sure does.
You know, so those are the people that I think really make this place special. And for me, I'm a social kind of guy. And I you know, if I don't talk to all these people and learn their stories, my wife will divorce me because I'll just talk to her, and she likes things to be quiet. It always has to come full circle to that.
Before we wrap this up here, what's in 12 months? What's your goal for Pittsburgh Beautiful? Do exactly what you're doing now? Do you have other things, other aspects of the website and other kinds of communication coming? What's the goal? Yeah, well, my goal really for Pittsburgh Beautiful is I started something called the American Beautiful Network. Okay. And I thought to myself, so right, if we want to get to the nuts and bolts of like, of course you're doing this, you're spending a lot of time. How are you going to make a living? Right. You know, how are you going to, you know, so everybody has to eat.
Right. Everybody has to eat. So what I noticed is that I started launching it in other cities. So we have Chicago Beautiful, New York Beautiful. Obviously you go to some of the big cities because you're going to get a lot of people right away and they're growing. So the American Beautiful Network is going to be a network of all of these cities, and I have every state as well. And I want people to do the same thing. I want them to start sharing what they think is beautiful about their region. It's not about competition.
Got it.
Okay? We don't live in Chicago.
Right.
Chicago's a great town.
Right. Yeah, I love Chicago.
And I think maybe if we can kind of spread this message of like, look, let's just all talk about how wonderful we think our region is, or the positive aspect. I mean, I don't want to come off being like, oh, let's all be positive and sing Mr. Rogers songs, although I love Mr. Rogers.
Well, I think we should.
You know,
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. God knows there's enough negative out there.
Right. It's more like, hey, let's set a lot of that rhetoric aside. Okay.
There's places for that.
That's right. This is not the place for that. This is the place for you to take ownership in what you love.
Yeah.
And
the word's beautiful. It's Pittsburgh Beautiful.
Right.
I mean, consternation and arguing and fighting amongst each other. There's nothing beautiful about that.
Well, if you want to fight about what's beautiful, like this is prettier than that.
Well, okay, that's fine. Yeah,
I got a better picture than you. Here it is. I'm on board with that. So, but a year from now, what I'd like to see is probably 25 of these cities, which I have a bunch of them launched.
It's awesome.
And then hopefully from monetization is always a goal. Hopefully enough people find value in it that they're willing to invest in it. And then maybe some of these larger corporations, it doesn't even have to be larger corporations, maybe they can see something valuable in the goodwill. And actually anything to get me off of watching DVR'd episodes of Law and Order with drug company commercials. That would be... I mean, I know the side effects of... Do you not? Do you know the side effects of every single drug out there?
Yeah, because the side effects. I'm not really sure what the drug does.
Right.
They never get to that.
No, I know what the drug does.
What it might do to you incorrectly.
Right. Yeah, what the drug does. X drug for X reason. Put anything in there. Diarrhea. That's what it is.
What a way to end the show. Chris, I appreciate it, man. This was great.
Thanks, Eric.
This was great.
I've had a great time. Absolutely.
And again, it's PittsburghBeautiful.com.
It's Pittsburgh Beautiful across
all platforms.
Everything. And the best thing to do is to get the app for free. Just go to the app store or Android. Download the app, gives you access to everything. You don't have to put your email address in. You can register if you want.
Yeah.
But just get the free app and
everything's there.
Share away.
Fair enough. I appreciate it, buddy.
All right, man.
All right, friends.
Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. We are out.
Fingertips above the water, you watch me drown. You could have saved me, but you let me down. Yeah.